What's up, gang? Welcome back to Distaste TV. On today's episode, we're back on another reaction video and continuing on with the Star Wars and Disney Plus series Ahsoka. This is episode 6. If you want to catch up on our reactions for episodes 1 through 5, just watch along any of their Star Wars or Marvel shows, or check out the occasional theme park Imagineering video. You can find it all on the homepage of the channel, and links in the description below as well. Appreciate you all checking that out. Hitting the home stretch now, 3 episodes to go of this season of Ahsoka. Coming off, at least for me, I think was the high point of the season to this point. The best episode, episode 5. There's been some good ones. They've all been solid, I think, to this point. But for me, episode 5 is the best one. And I don't know if that's just, and it probably is, it's probably the Clone Wars fan in me talking. It definitely, as a Clone Wars fan, hit all the right notes. I don't think in a million years I ever thought I would see Ahsoka and Anakin in live action on screen together ever. Let alone at this point in time. And, seeing that play out, how it was handled, I just thought it was really well done. It was just super unique, kind of how they did it, in the World Between Worlds, and going back seeing Ahsoka at a young age, and that actress I thought was great. But it's going to be interesting too, I think, kind of seeing Ahsoka come out of that episode. And really, like the last, 5, 6, 7 minutes, there's a huge change, really kind of head to toe for her. Demeanor, even her clothes, just to get superficial there, but it's just a huge change in her from head to toe. And interesting to see, and I don't know if that was, in a guess a way it was closure for her. I don't think she needed closure, but I think seeing Anakin, interacting with him, it was something she did need to kind of move on in some ways. Or maybe to make her more receptive to being a teacher, or for Sabine, which they obviously struggled with off screen that we didn't really see. Been alluded to quite a bit, but it's going to be interesting to see when the two of them get back together, how that whole dynamic has changed, post World Between Worlds for Ahsoka. Should be real interesting to see how that all fleshes out. I don't know if that's going to be today, but with 3 episodes left, presumably going to happen here at some point. Kind of where we pick up today, at this point, I would assume Morgan and crew have reached wherever they're going to find Thrawn, and they left in episode 4, so they've had plenty of time to get there. And then Ahsoka and Huyang are not too far behind. Well, presumably, assuming that the Purrgil go to the exact same location. A lot of faith there inside the whale's mouth that they're going to end up in the same location, but I would expect today's episode, I don't know if we'll see Thrawn and Ezra, but I would expect that we're going to start to get there with we don't have much time left, with a couple episodes to go. But wherever we end up, I would expect it'll be, if it's planets, galaxies, universe, whatever it might be, that's where we're going to end up with today's episode, and looking forward to checking it out. So all that being said, let's just go ahead and check out episode 6 of Ahsoka. It's still crazy to think getting live action Purrgil, and they're riding inside of that thing.
Intergalactic travel within a star whale. Now I really have done it all.
Check that off the bingo card, right?
I still have those stories in my archive memory. Would you like to hear one?
I would.
Not right now. She went with the enemy willingly.
Impossible.
Not impossible.
Could have ended this. No Thrawn.
No Ezra.
And no Ezra.
A choice she made for herself.
That is your fear.
Second thought. Tell me one of those stories.
Change the subject, right?
A long time ago, in a galaxy
Far, far away. What a great use of the tagline there. I do want to hear one of those stories though, right? I couldn't sleep there either. There's never any pillows in Star Wars, is there?
I would think this would be an opportunity for reflection.
I try to avoid that.
I can understand why.
Hey! Hey! We had a deal!
You did have a deal. I don't think he promised comfort, though.
The prisoner.
Is impatient.
That she is.
Tracking complete. We have arrived at our destination.
No, here we go. Where did we end up? Oh, that was a cool effect.
That is Peridia, the ancient homeworld of my ancestors, the Dathomiri.
The end of the migration route used by the star whales as they traversed the void from one galaxy to the other.
My people were among the first to harness and ride the creatures in the days before time was counted.
The whales came here to die. Peridia was a graveyard.
Wow. Lots of lore packs there in about 15 seconds. Are those all whale bones? Ah, that's terrible. Was that the entire ring around the planet? Was the bones from the Purgle? These two just stare holes through each other, don't they? Oh man, that is a gold ship. Good grief. Again with the glances. A lot of unfinished business. Oh, that's cool. I like this viewpoint looking through the cockpit like this. Oh, look at that. Definitely reminiscent. Was it episode 1 in the temple that Ahsoka was at? Which makes sense with the whole witch correlation, but pretty barren looking place. Not surprisingly, I guess. Are those witches? Much like the on Cetos, the inflection point on Cetos, which again makes sense. Oh wow.
You heard our call to you in the dream.
Your visions guided me across the stars.
Alright, that makes a lot of sense now, the whole Thrawn connection.
Where is Thrawn?
You shall wait. He is coming.
We're done waiting. We want to see Thrawn.
It reeks of Jedi.
It's like me, I just bathed. Yeah, what are these gonna do?
It will wait in solitude.
Interesting how they refer to her as it. Not a fan of Jedi, are they? She's not gonna see Ezra in here, is she?
This is a land of dreams and madness. Children's stories come to life.
I know no such stories.
You weren't raised at the temple.
Yeah.
When I was a bit older than you are now, I watched everything I knew burn. I realize it's all inevitable. Fall of the Jedi, rise of the Empire. It repeats again and again and again.
We know that all too well, don't we?
That sort of power is fleeting. What I seek is the beginning. So I may finally bring this cycle to an end.
And that beginning is here.
If the old stories are true.
What is he after? Again, we know he's not truly aligned to Thrawn. He mentioned several episodes ago the whole idea of power, and I think they've even talked about it several times, but he's acting like he's come here for something else. He mentioned stories and all that. I like getting more in depth though, even albeit smally, but going back into talking about Order 66 and the whole rise and fall of Jedi, Empire, all that. It's not her, is it? Even she's like, wait a second. Oh, look at that. Has it been modified too? Look at the exterior. Oh wow. What an, oh, even the design underneath? What an entrance. Wow. Just the scale of that on screen looks fantastic. Alright, here we go. What? Oh, here he comes. I love all the stormtroopers too. It's like they're not all perfect and white and gleaming. It's like you can see passage of time and like everything's not perfect. It's like they're kind of getting by and they've modified in different areas. Even look at all that. That dude's mask is awesome.
Great mothers, I salute you.
That voice, so distinct.
You never spoke of this.
We did not see it. It is a loose thread.
Why didn't you see it?
And you are?
Mercenaries. Baylan Skull. And as apprentice.
Oh yeah, I guess he wouldn't really know them, would he?
Then you must be General Baylan Skull. Of the Jedi Order.
Okay. Yeah, he would know the Jedi Baylan Skull.
The prisoner is Sabine Wren.
Now there's a familiar name.
He does know. It's perfect that they got him because again, his voice is so distinctive. So to have him voicing from Rebels to doing the acting in live action is perfect.
Thrawn.
What a delight it is after so long to see a familiar face.
So understated there.
How that singular focus will reshape our galaxy.
Just answer the question.
You shall have provisions, amounts, and our latest intel on Bridges' whereabouts.
What's the catch?
So that's it? You're just gonna let me walk out of here?
You helped my cause. Now I shall help yours. You've gambled the fate of your galaxy on that belief.
You wouldn't understand.
Perhaps not.
Those red eyes.
I'd rather not waste any more time. What kind of ride you got around here?
Oh, is that the ride?
Dota.
It behaves, apparently. Even the lightsaber. Alright, what's she riding off into?
You may follow her at your own pace.
Yes, Grand Admiral.
Sabine Wren will have the opportunity of finding Ezra Bridger. And if she does, you and your master will destroy them both.
Yeah, he knew it was too easy. Always too good to be true. I'm curious, though. He obviously doesn't know where Ezra's at. If he's just going to let her go out to find him. They're essentially just using her as bait. Oh, look out. I was going to run off. That armor's coming in handy. Oof. Alright. Now you done messed up. She's pulling out the lightsaber. Guy's holding his head. It's gonna run. Yes. Very reminiscent. What was it, episode 4 and the Sand People and attacking Luke there in the valley and the caves and all that.
Should we not send more troops to support them?
During this exile, our numbers have dwindled. So, no. 2 squats will suffice.
That was a very subtle, like, no, I'm not taking your advice.
It matters not whether Wren and Bridge are killed or stranded here. The same can be said for your 2 mercenaries.
He's getting out. It doesn't matter who he leaves behind, does he?
You abandoned me.
It's like ducking his head. I feel he's gonna turn right back around though and follow her, isn't it? Yep. You knew that was gonna happen.
You got something?
Smell something.
It's a rock. You're embarrassing yourself.
Is it licking it? Oh! What is that? Is that like a crab? Oh, it's even dressed. What is that?
It's okay. It's okay. I got this.
Yeah, it does not want to get eaten, does it?
Tota.
Begrudgingly lays down. Interesting. I don't recall ever seeing one of these before. I would assume definitely a new character. Oh, I recognize there's a symbol on her shield, on her arm plate there. Oh, there's more. Oh, it's like the was it the trolls in Frozen? They all had those rock backs and they would blend in like that.
Do you know Ezra Bridger? He's my friend.
I came a whole galaxy away to find him, right? I was about to say we need a translator, but I think this means come on.
Looks like she survived.
Unfortunately, right?
I trained to be something more.
Yeah, what exactly?
Do you miss it? The Order?
I miss the idea of it. But not the truth. The weakness. There was no future there.
I was about to say, he started to sound like Ahsoka until he got into the rest of that statement.
Perhaps they flee a power greater than their own. Can't you hear it? Something stirs here. Can't you see it?
I see bandits.
He's getting all deep into lore and story there, and she sees bandits. Yeah, they're gonna leave them alone. I'm interested though, like what he's obviously got some kind of ulterior motive why he's helping Thrawn, or helping find Thrawn and get him back to the other galaxy, but I am really curious what he's looking for there. And I would assume it's something, you know, in the Jedi stories, he obviously knows about this place from the Jedi Order, and talking about the whole Witch's Kingdom and all that, so he knows something about this place. It's an interesting little village. All their houses look just like their like the shape of their shells. Oh, look at that little one.
No, thank you.
Is that a rock? What was that? It's got to be there, right?
I knew I could count on you.
There it is. Look of relief right there.
Always a plan. Never a good one.
Hey, it worked, didn't it?
It did. Now what? It's interesting. I'll have to go back and watch the first episode again, but, and granted it's been years, but he looks different than the hologram, which is going to change, obviously, the beard and everything, but
How did you get here?
Let's not talk about that.
yeah. Let's save all the bad choices for a later discussion.
Thanks for coming. Can't wait to go home.
Yeah, about that.
Another comes.
A Jedi.
They ride the travelers.
Ahsoka's on her way.
Death and resurrection are common deceptions played out by both Night Sister and Jedi.
This is true.
If a star whale approaches Peridia, destroy it with prejudice.
Oh, wow. It's going to shoot him out of the sky.
The thread of destiny demands it, Grand Admiral.
Get to see some dark magic. Oh, there it is. Not a super long episode. It was a good one. It was very much a transition episode. I didn't dislike it. I mean, it was good. It was coming off episode 5. They needed something like this to kind of move things along, I guess. Obviously cool to see Thrawn, see Ezra. Kind of dive into that as I ramble through this, but it was a solid episode, not the best by any means, but again, story-wise, this is kind of where they had to go. We had to get here, introduce Thrawn, and kind of explain kind of what's happening. There was more Clone Wars Rebels lore in this episode, just like we got episode 5. Seeing the Night Sisters on screen, again, harkens back to Clone Wars. Very cool to see that. And we got a taste of it in episode 1 of the series. And we've, with Morgan sprinkled about, we've had some of it, but to see the 3 Night Sisters and be in the old kingdom, in this galaxy, that's super cool. So kind of dive in. Never expected again to see Night Sisters. We're going to see more witchcraft and magic, which I'm all for that. Very interesting. I like how it made some sense too, before I dive too much into Thrawn, but it was curious, this connection that Morgan had to Thrawn, communication across galaxies, how that worked out. But obviously it makes perfect sense now, where they're at, and Thrawn working with the Night Sisters and the witches, Dathomir there. It makes total sense now how that connection was there. He was working through them, and how Morgan would have a direct link to him. So that all makes total sense. Super interesting how they introduced Thrawn in this episode. I love seeing all the troopers and the ship, how they've been modified. He's obviously ending up in this galaxy that they didn't really have a whole lot of resources of the Empire available to them. So they've kind of have made do with what they had. So I think it was really interesting just to kind of see all the modifications on the exterior of the ship. And then even the stormtroopers, a lot of them had scratches and dings and dents. The leader had like a gold mask, which I don't know if there's any kind of backstory to that, but I thought that was really interesting, how that was pulled off. Thrawn, super interesting character from Rebels. I love that they got Lars Mikkelsen to do this. Obviously, look-wise, it was going to be tough to pull off from animation, because in the animated series, super thin profile and character. But, and I can look past that, but to have the voice of Thrawn I think it's more needed than any kind of physical representation, just because the voice is so distinct from the animated series, and to have the actor play in that, much like they did with Ryder, there on Lothal in the first episode or 2. Smaller character, but same kind of idea. I like that if you have the opportunity to get one of those characters that did the voice and has a somewhat similar look, by all means, go for it. And especially with Thrawn, I love that they got him, and just because everything he does, and you saw it with this episode, every line he delivers, very deliberate, the pauses, just everything about it. It was straight off the screen for animation, as far as the whole persona and how he delivered these lines. So I really appreciate that they've got him in this role to do this. interesting seeing him, come back. He knows Sabine very well. So that little interaction they had there was interesting to kind of see that reunion of sorts. He obviously did not know where Ezra is. I feel like if he had, he probably would have. I don't know if there was like some sort of like. I'd be interested to see if we get some kind of story on how the two of them got separated when they got here, and maybe we do get that. But I don't know if he was just kind of letting Ezra do his own thing and didn't want to fool with it. I feel like he would have gone after Ezra before this if he knew where he was. So it makes sense that they would use Sabine to bring him out of hiding. And eventually, obviously, he sends out Baylan and Shin out to take care of both of them. And he has no qualms about leaving any of them behind, which is not a surprise. He wants to get back to his galaxy, with his forces and kind of continue on from there. So it was a good episode. There was some, again, nothing major that just kind of stands out like wow moments. We didn't see Ahsoka in this episode, which probably not too unexpected, kind of the way things went. We basically took a whole episode for Morgan and crew to get there. So presumably it was going to take Ahsoka. Maybe we could have seen her at the end of this episode, but I would expect the beginning of next episode, we will see her. Can't imagine her whale's going to get shot out of the sky. I hate to see that. I do like the very beginning of this episode, a couple of moments at the beginning of this episode I enjoyed. Huyang and Ahsoka, I've enjoyed their interaction throughout this series. Huyang's been a great character, even as a droid, to have in this series. And just to kind of hear them talking and, discussion of things that went on. I thought they might broach the whole world between worlds thing, but it really went back to more of the Sabine and her choices. And eventually Ahsoka just wanted to change the subject. And again, I liked how Huyang started to go into his stories about, I forget how he titled them, but he's in a galaxy far, far away, and he was going to start telling Jedi tales or tales of the galaxy. That was a nice little interaction. But when the hyperspace ring was first coming out of hyperspace lanes there, and they started giving a little bit of backstory on the planet. So, it was the Witch's Kingdom, and it was the end of the migration routes for the Purgle. The whole, the bones there that were floating in space and all that. It was like a 15, 20 seconds kind of backstory on that area. So it was kind of neat to kind of get that as they're coming into orbits from the planets. And we even got a lot of that too sprinkled throughout the episode with Baylan. That's been one thing, throughout these first 5 episodes, I've wanted to get more information on his character, kind of what he's about. We knew former Jedi, they're pre-Order 66, but we didn't know other than that. And this whole idea of power he's been going after, didn't know much about him. And we got some of that this episode. Did we get everything? No. But just through the conversations we see him and Shin having as they different points in the episodes, kind of get an idea of one, what he's been after. And we knew really from the beginning it was not necessarily for Thrawn. Really kind of looking out for himself and his apprentice, but get more of an idea, which we still don't know, but he's there for some great power on this planet. And I'm sure we're going to dive more into that. We've only got 2 episodes to go, so we have to. But I'm really curious what exactly that is. It gets referenced several times throughout the episode. He talks about the old stories. Like I said, when they're coming out of the hyperspace, he was talking about there, and even on planet, talking about the histories and his knowledge of the place. So he obviously seems to have an idea of what he's looking for. Shin has no clue, but he obviously has some semblance of an idea of what he's looking for. And I get the impression the way it's played out. I don't know if the witches of Dathomir know about it. Thrawn probably obviously does not. Potentially, but he seems to indicate, this is why they're all wanting to leave. But that's going to be kind of an interesting struggle now, because we don't just have Thrawn to worry about, but now we've got Baylan, he's almost Thanos-like in his approach to some of this, because he talks about this, this vicious cycle, which he's not wanting to wipe out half of, the population, but it's kind of some of that similar mindset where he just feels like he just needs to start from scratch in essence. So I'm really curious what he's planning on finding and what his ultimate motive is, how that's going to play out in these next couple episodes. It seems like everything is probably going to happen here. Obviously, Ahsoka's on her way. I don't get the impression we're going to see anybody else at this point. It feels like this planet, I can't remember the name of the planet off the top of my head, but it feels like this is kind of these last 2 episodes. This is kind of where it's going to climax potentially this season, and but the characters that are in play here, and really interested to kind of see how that plays out over the next 2 episodes and what's kind of in store, because I really have no clue at this point. It was nice we got Ezra briefly there at the very tail end. I'm going to take kind of a wait and see with Ezra, and it's really tough coming, and even with some of the characters we had so far this season, it's tough coming from animation to live action, and there's always a set of expectations for the character. You know, you've seen this character in the case of Rebels for 4 seasons. You know, for Clone Wars with Ahsoka, it was 7 seasons plus a couple seasons of Rebels. So there's always kind of an expectation of you're seeing this character, you've heard this character, and then now seeing him in live action, the differences. So I'm still taking kind of a wait and see with Ezra. It's going to be an adjustment, kind of getting used, because I'm so used to this, you know, youngish kid, and you know, no facial hair, kind of a shorter haircut. But I guess we'll kind of have to see the next episode. I was seeing him again, the very first episode in the hologram with Sabine there. And it's probably, I'm sure it's the same actor, but it looked like a completely different person. And I know time has passed since the hologram, and obviously he's been kind of roughing it. So there's gonna be some of that, but first seeing that character, it just did not seem like an Ezra type of character, if that makes any sense. And not to say that this one does either, you know, seeing him there briefly with Sabine. So that's going to be interesting to kind of see. And I don't want to say their reunion felt forced. And again, because they were close during Rebels. And I don't know what I expected when they first saw each other. It wasn't going to be some big, you know, 10-minute hug or whatever it was, but it was kind of an understated reunion in some aspects. Obviously, he was happy to see her. She's been looking forward to seeing him for however many years. So it felt a little understated. But again, we were only with them for, you know, all of 1-2 minutes. So that's something that can kind of play out over the next episode. But again, curious what you guys thought of this episode overall. It was an okay episode for me. Again, I don't think there was anything major that was going to happen with what was, you know, written for this episode. So it was well done, you know, for what was there. I'm hoping things will kind of pick back up, because we've only got 2 episodes to go at this point. So I'm hoping 7 and 8 kind of get moving on some things story-wise. Obviously, Ahsoka gets introduced, and we get an idea of how things are going to play out over these last 2 episodes. So looking forward to it, of course. But as always, I really appreciate you guys joining me in this reaction here for episode 6. Until next time, I will see you for episode 7 in Ahsoka.